After 70, many people wake up and wonder why, despite having more free time than ever, life feels heavier, lonelier, and sometimes even joyless. You might look around and see a comfortable home, a routine that seems stable, and loved ones who care, yet there's an invisible weight pressing down on your heart each day. What if I told you that this weight isn't age, illness, or bad luck, but hidden burdens you've been carrying for decades without realizing it? These burdens aren't objects in your house, and they're not physical conditions written on a medical chart. They are habits of the mind and emotions of the past that creep silently into your daily life. They disguise themselves as normal parts of growing older, but in truth, they are chains you never needed to accept. And the shocking reality is this: most people over 70 are still holding on to 5 invisible weights that steal their happiness, their energy, and even their peace of mind. Wisdom beyond 60, dear everyone. This is the moment we face a hard question together. Are you truly free, or are you still serving old patterns that no longer serve you? Imagine this: a woman in her 70s, exhausted not from climbing mountains, but from constantly demanding perfection of herself. A man who can't sleep because he replays an argument from 30 years ago. Closets filled with clothes from another lifetime, whispering that who you are today isn't enough. These are not stories of rare exceptions. These are the quiet realities of countless seniors who should be enjoying their golden years, but instead find themselves prisoners of the past. But here's the mystery that will shock you. These weights are not nailed to your soul. You can throw them away. The choice is yours, and it can start today. Think about it. How different would tomorrow feel if you no longer felt crushed by perfectionism, poisoned by old resentments, trapped by outdated possessions, drained by toxic relationships, or suffocated by the constant need to please everyone around you? The transformation is not just possible, it's waiting for you the moment you decide to let go. Stay with me until the very end of this video, because once you understand these 5 burdens clearly, you'll see exactly why they become so destructive after 70, and you'll discover practical steps to finally release them. And the most surprising part? The change often begins instantly. I've seen seniors reclaim their laughter, rebuild their confidence, and reawaken a sense of freedom just by letting go of one single burden. So let me ask you directly, are you ready to stop surviving and start truly living again? If this message already stirs something in your heart, make sure to subscribe to Beyond 60 Wisdom right now. Your support gives us the motivation to continue bringing life-changing videos every single week. Together, we'll unlock the wisdom that makes your later years not a slow decline, but a time of authentic joy, peace, and purpose. Now, before we dive into the first invisible burden, let's reflect on a question. Please answer honestly in the comments below. It will not only help you, but also inspire others who read your reply. Which do you feel weighs you down more right now? A, trying to make everything perfect, even when it exhausts you. B, holding on to old anger or resentment from the past. Type your answer, A or B, in the comments. Your story matters, and your honesty might be exactly what another person needs to hear today. The very first burden you must release after 70 is perfectionism. At a younger age, striving to do things well may have pushed you towards success, but after 7 decades of living, the same drive begins to turn into a silent enemy. Perfectionism is no longer about excellence. It becomes a constant voice whispering that nothing you do is ever enough. That voice pushes you to polish the floor one more time, even when your back aches, or to obsess over the details of a family dinner so much that you miss the joy of simply sitting with your loved ones. It tells you not to try painting, dancing, or learning a new technology because you might not excel on the first attempt. The cruel irony is that in chasing standards that no longer matter, you exhaust yourself and rob your remaining years of the peace you deserve. Think of the countless hours lost because of perfectionist habits. A spotless house that only you notice, a task redone 10 times because it wasn't just right, or a missed opportunity to laugh with friends because you were worried about being judged. At 70 and beyond, these patterns take a heavier toll than they once did. The body does not carry stress as it did at 40, and the mind, instead of finding joy and freedom, becomes trapped in constant self-criticism. Research has shown that older adults who cling to perfectionism experience higher levels of anxiety, greater loneliness, and a decline in overall well-being. Instead of empowering you, perfectionism chips away at your vitality, creating distance between you and the people who care most about you. Consider the story of a woman in her mid-70s who spent years chasing an immaculate home. Every picture frame had to be straight, every corner dust-free, every cushion perfectly aligned. She was constantly tired, her children and grandchildren tiptoed around her, and her home became a museum rather than a gathering place. One day, she decided to let go. She accepted a little dust, a little imperfection, and suddenly the house filled with laughter again. Her energy returned, her family felt welcome, and she began to live her retirement years with warmth rather than tension. Her joy didn't come from finally reaching perfection. It came from setting herself free from it. Perfectionism after 70 is dangerous because it steals the present moment. At this stage of life, you have nothing left to prove to the world. You've already raised families, worked through careers, and survived storms of all kinds. The pressure to meet impossible standards is no longer a badge of honor. It is a burden that keeps you from embracing the wisdom of experience. Every moment spent chasing flawlessness is a moment taken away from truly living, from enjoying the beauty of an ordinary day, or from savoring the company of people who love you just as you are. So, how do you release this invisible chain? Begin by identifying where perfectionism shows up most in your life. Is it in the way you judge your appearance? The way you host gatherings? The way you avoid trying new hobbies because you might not be immediately skilled? Write these down. Then challenge yourself with the good enough rule. Aim for 80% instead of 100. Clean the house until it feels welcoming, not until it looks like a showroom. Cook a family meal that is tasty, not flawless. Give yourself permission to experiment, to be messy, to learn without expectation of mastery. Remember, growth does not stop after 70, it simply looks different. You have earned the right to explore without judgment. Letting go of perfectionism does not mean lowering your standards or giving up on yourself. It means shifting from constant pressure to genuine presence. It means valuing peace over polish, connection over performance, and joy over stress. The question you must ask yourself is simple. Do you want to spend the rest of your years polishing details no one else notices? Or do you want to live freely, embracing every day as it is? The answer will determine whether you continue to carry the poison of perfectionism or finally step into the lightness of freedom. The third burden that quietly robs seniors of peace after 70 is the weight of the past. It comes in two forms: grudges that still burn in the heart, and closets filled with clothes that no longer reflect the person you are today. At first glance, these may seem unrelated, but in truth, both are reminders of identities and emotions that no longer serve you, yet continue to anchor you in yesterday instead of allowing you to live fully in the present. Think about resentment for a moment. A bitter memory from decades ago can remain alive in the mind as if it happened yesterday. The betrayal of a friend, a conflict with a sibling, a disappointment with a child or partner, these events replay over and over, each time releasing a flood of stress that the body can no longer absorb as it once did. Scientists have found that chronic anger in older adults raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and worsens anxiety. But beyond the physical impact, the deeper tragedy is time. Every moment spent rehearsing old wounds is a moment stolen from sunsets, laughter, and quiet contentment in the here and now. After 70, the most precious currency is time, and carrying resentment is like paying interest on a debt that should have been settled long ago. One man I spoke with in his late 70s shared that he had spent 15 years furious over being cheated by a business partner. Those years were not only filled with stress, but also with distance from his family, as bitterness became the dominant tone of his life. When he finally chose to release the grudge, not because his former partner deserved forgiveness, but because he himself deserved freedom, his health improved and his relationships blossomed. He discovered that the act of letting go was not about excusing the past, but about refusing to let it define the rest of his life. That is the gift waiting for anyone willing to set resentment down. The second hidden anchor is found not in memory, but in the closet. Clothes that belong to another chapter of your life, business suits from a career that has ended, dresses from parties you no longer attend, jeans that no longer fit, carry silent messages every time you see them. They whisper that who you are now is less than who you once were, that your present is a waiting room for a past you can't return to. For many seniors, this creates a subtle sadness, a feeling that life is somehow diminished simply because the wardrobe no longer matches the reality of today. I recall the story of a 72-year-old woman who had 3 closets full of garments from different decades of her life. Each morning became a battlefield with her self-esteem. Nothing fit her body, her lifestyle, or her sense of self anymore, yet she could not part with them. When she finally decided to clear it all out, she experienced a surprising liberation. By keeping only the clothes that felt comfortable, authentic, and suited to her current age, she began to feel more confident than she had in years. Dressing herself became an act of acceptance rather than a daily reminder of loss. Releasing both grudges and outdated clothing has a similar effect. It clears space for the life you are living now. Forgiving does not erase history, but it allows peace to replace anger. Decluttering does not deny your past, but it affirms that who you are today is worthy of being celebrated. Both are acts of courage, because both require facing the truth that you cannot step backward in time. You can only choose to honor the present and prepare for the days ahead. So ask yourself, what burdens from the past still live in your heart or in your home? What grudge continues to drain your spirit? What clothes hang in your closet that tell the story of someone you no longer are? The day you decide to release them is the day you will discover a new lightness in your step, a new peace in your mind, and a new joy in your everyday life. At 70 and beyond, the question is not whether you deserve that freedom. The real question is, are you ready to claim it? The fourth weight that quietly drains the spirit after 70 is unhealthy relationships. At this stage of life, every interaction matters more because your time and energy have become far more precious than they once were. Yet many people continue to tolerate companions, relatives, or even adult children whose presence brings more tension than comfort. The truth is simple. Relationships either nourish you or they diminish you. And once you reach this season of life, you can no longer afford to let negativity steal the limited years ahead. Imagine the toll of spending each week with someone who constantly criticizes your choices, calls only to unload their problems, or stirs up conflict every time you meet. These interactions may have been easier to brush off in earlier decades, but now they leave you exhausted for days, affecting your sleep, your mood, and even your physical well-being. Stress in older age does not fade easily. It lingers in the body, raising inflammation, clouding the mind, and weakening resilience. What once felt like just family drama or old friendship habits has now become a genuine risk to your quality of life. One woman in her mid-70s told me about her adult daughter, who phoned daily with complaints, demands, and criticism. The mother, out of guilt, tolerated it for years, even though each call left her anxious and depleted. When she finally set clear boundaries, limiting the time of calls, refusing to be drawn into endless arguments, something remarkable happened. Her daughter eventually adjusted, and the mother regained her peace. For the first time in years, her evenings were calm, her sleep improved, and her spirit felt lighter. Protecting her peace did not destroy the relationship. It actually reshaped it into something healthier. The lesson is clear. After 70, it is not selfish to protect yourself from draining connections. It is wise. You have earned the right to choose who belongs in your inner circle. Begin with an honest self-audit. Ask yourself, how do I feel after spending time with this person? Energized, supported, understood, or empty, angry, and small? If the answer is the latter, then it is time to make a change. That change may not always mean ending the relationship, but it does mean creating boundaries. You can limit the topics you are willing to discuss. You can reduce the frequency of contact. You can refuse to accept behavior that steals your peace. And in some cases, the bravest decision is to walk away entirely. The hardest part is often the guilt. Many seniors feel they must endure toxic behavior because of family ties or long history. But think carefully. Is it truly an act of love to allow others to harm your spirit? Or is it more loving to model strength, to show children and grandchildren that dignity and respect are non-negotiable values? Releasing a toxic relationship does not mean you have failed. It means you are honoring the years you still have, choosing to fill them with kindness, positivity, and joy rather than bitterness. When you clear away unhealthy connections, you make space for new ones. Perhaps a neighbor you never really got to know becomes a trusted friend. Perhaps you join a community group or volunteer project where people share your interests and values. Or maybe you simply deepen the ties you already have with those who bring you laughter, comfort, and encouragement. Relationships in your later years should be light, not heavy, supportive, not suffocating. They should remind you that even now you matter deeply and that your happiness is worth protecting. So take a moment and reflect. Who in your life lifts you up and who consistently drags you down? The courage to answer honestly may be the first step toward freedom. And remember this truth: you are not here to be the caretaker of other people's endless negativity. You are here to live the remainder of your years with clarity, peace, and the companionship of those who genuinely value you. The power to create that circle is already in your hands. The final invisible weight that keeps so many people trapped after 70 is the endless urge to please everyone. On the surface, it may look like kindness, patience, or generosity, but underneath, it often becomes something very different: self-abandonment. People-pleasing is not the same as being loving. It is saying yes when your heart longs to say no. It is carrying out obligations that drain your strength, not because they bring you joy, but because you fear disappointing someone else. After decades of living, this habit has likely been reinforced again and again, and by the time you reach your 70s, it can be one of the most exhausting weights of all. Think of how it shows up in daily life. You agree to host gatherings you no longer enjoy because your family expects it. You lend money that you cannot truly spare because you are afraid of letting down your children. You volunteer for tasks that leave you sore and weary, even though no one notices the sacrifice. You stay silent about your opinions to keep the peace, even when your silence eats away at your sense of self. Each of these moments chips away at your authenticity. They might look like acts of love, but in reality, they are moments where you are living for someone else's approval rather than for your own fulfillment. The cost of people-pleasing in older age is deeper than many realize. Your energy is no longer infinite. It is limited, precious, and irreplaceable. Each time you say yes to something that drains you, you are saying no to something that could have nourished you. Your remaining years are not a rehearsal. They are the real performance. If they are spent fulfilling other people's expectations, you risk reaching the end with a heart full of regret, realizing you never gave yourself permission to live your own truth. Even more painful, you teach others, your children, your grandchildren, that it is acceptable to sacrifice their own well-being just to keep others satisfied. That is not the legacy you want to leave behind. But there is another way. The process of releasing people-pleasing begins with reclaiming your voice. Practice saying no without apologies or long explanations. "I can't do that" is a complete sentence. It does not make you unkind, it makes you honest. Next, remind yourself daily of your values. What brings you peace? What brings you joy? When a request or expectation comes, measure it against those values. If it aligns, say yes with a full heart. If it does not, allow yourself to decline. The world will not collapse, and those who truly love you will adjust. In fact, many people will begin to respect you more when they realize your yes actually means something, because it is no longer given out of guilt. The transformation can be profound. One man in his early 70s told me he had spent his entire life bending to others, never refusing a request. The breaking point came when he agreed, despite his own pain, to help his son move house yet again. He finally saw that his constant yes had not built love, it had built resentment. When he began to set boundaries, his relationships grew stronger, because they were now built on honesty and respect rather than silent sacrifice. He discovered a joy he had not felt since his youth, the joy of living from a place of choice instead of compulsion. After 70, every day you live should reflect the truth of who you are, not the demands of others. People-pleasing will always whisper that you are being selfish if you protect your energy, but the truth is the opposite. By honoring yourself, you bring your best self to the people around you. Your laughter becomes real, your presence becomes meaningful, and your love becomes authentic. You are no longer giving from emptiness, you are giving from fullness. So ask yourself, how many times have you said yes this month when you wanted to say no? How many moments of your life have been shaped by fear of letting someone down, instead of by the courage to honor your own heart? The answer may surprise you, but the freedom that comes from finally breaking this cycle is beyond measure. At 70 and beyond, you have earned the right to let go of the exhausting performance of pleasing everyone. The only approval that matters now is your own. When you look back at the 5 invisible weights we explored, perfectionism, resentment, outdated identities, toxic relationships, and people-pleasing, it becomes clear that the real thieves of happiness after 70 are not time or age, but the patterns we refuse to let go of. Each of these burdens quietly chips away at peace, stealing the joy that should be the defining gift of your later years. The good news is that these weights are not permanent chains, they are choices, and choices can be changed. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the courage to say, I have given enough of my life to fear, guilt, and expectation. From this moment, I choose freedom. Think about how different life feels when you release these habits. Without perfectionism, you can laugh at mistakes, try new hobbies, and enjoy the simple pleasure of good enough. Without resentment, you breathe easier, your heart grows lighter, and you find space for forgiveness that is really a gift to yourself. Clearing away clothes and symbols from the past helps you step into the present with confidence, no longer haunted by who you used to be. Setting boundaries with unhealthy people allows you to conserve energy for those who truly love and respect you. And by ending the cycle of constant people-pleasing, you finally give yourself permission to say yes only when it feels true, making every connection more authentic. The deeper lesson here is that happiness after 70 is less about adding and more about subtracting. You don't need more possessions, more achievements, or more approval from others. What you need is less weight, fewer chains, and the freedom to live as the person you have become. Letting go creates room for joy, peace, and meaningful relationships to flow back into your life. This is not about denying responsibility or shutting people out. It is about recognizing that your years, your health, and your energy are precious, and they should be guarded with love. For seniors watching this right now, the way forward is not complicated. Start small. Release one perfectionist habit this week. Let go of one grudge by writing it down and tearing it up. Remove a few pieces of clothing that no longer serve you. Limit one draining conversation. Say no to one request that feels heavy. Each step might seem small, but together they create a ripple that changes everything. You don't have to wait for a perfect moment to begin. Your moment is now. At this stage of life, joy is not something to chase in the distance. It is something you allow in the present by choosing lightness over heaviness, peace over struggle, authenticity over approval. So here is a question for you to reflect on. Which of these 5 burdens do you feel most ready to let go of today? Please comment below with your answer, because your story and your courage may inspire someone else who is watching and silently struggling with the same weight. And if this message touched your heart, I kindly invite you to support our community here at Beyond 60 Wisdom. If you found this video meaningful, please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future guidance and encouragement. Share your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone with care. And pass this video along to friends or family who may also need to hear it. Your feedback gives us the strength to continue creating heartfelt videos to serve you better. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for being part of this journey. Together, let's make these years not just about living longer, but about living lighter, freer, and happier every single day.